Welcome to Women's Sports Weekly, where women's sports happen every day, but we talk about it once a week. I'm Carolyn.
And I'm Danielle. Women's Sports Weekly is a podcast where we discuss the latest news, explore interesting stories, and share our love for women's sports. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Women's Sports Weekly Pod. Follow us and rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Send us an email at womensportsweeklypod@gmail.com. And we may feature your email on our listener experience zone, the Les.
We finally took up a winter sport this past weekend.
Yeah, we're trying to keep up with the Olympians and finally got out on the snow.
It was great. Your sisters came out from New Jersey. Their fiance and boyfriend came, and we had a great time in Breckenridge.
All fun and games until Amanda broke her arm on day 2.
It does happen when you're an Olympic athlete on ice.
The conditions here in Colorado have not been great this winter, which actually this has been our first day skiing this winter, which is unheard of. I mean, we usually start October, November. Everyone has been saying it's so icy, this and that. And we actually had good timing because it did snow all weekend, but it still was icy and not great. And unfortunately, Amanda did have a fall and fractured her shoulder, which, it was such a just sad incident. I'm just happy me and Carly were there, to have her sisters there when that happened. But yeah, that sucked.
It did. The conditions in Colorado have just not been great, which is really unfortunate. We have a lot of things going on, so that's part of the reason why we haven't skied a lot. But then you go out there and it's a little bit icy and it's like, no, I don't want to really be out here for an extended period of time. But we did have a couple of good days, and then the final day it was definitely skied out.
Definitely. But we did stay in Breckenridge. It's beautiful out there. The town is fun. We had some good meals. It was still a great weekend. I love getting together with my sisters and all our partners. It's always fun, and we've made it a tradition. We were laughing this past weekend because we were like, they're all from New Jersey and New York, and it's been so cold there this winter, and we're like, why are we going somewhere cold? We should have just go to Mexico next winter. And especially when Amanda got hurt, we're like, okay, we're all going to Mexico next year.
Every time we cheersed, it was to Mexico in 2027.
I'm holding on to that.
For sure. I think everyone needs a break after a broken arm, and yeah, it's been a rough winter on the East Coast. So
yeah, and speaking of rough winters, Amanda and James got out, but Carly and Charlie have had some pretty bad luck traveling.
Yeah.
They always seem to get stuck somewhere, delayed. Well, their flights got canceled, so they're hanging out with us for a few extra days, which I'm happy about. But I know they got to get back to work eventually.
Hopefully by the time this comes out, they are back on the East Coast.
Yeah, for their sake. What we also did this past weekend is we did watch a lot of Olympics because the Olympics did wrap up this past weekend, and we will talk about some of those events in this episode, but it was a lot of fun also watching events together.
I love when I have time to just be like, I'm just going to immerse myself in a sport that I don't really know much about, and we're all going to watch it together and we're all going to chat. It was really, really fun.
But anyways, let's get into the highlight reel for this week. We are going to start with something exciting with ESPN, and then we'll dive into some more games and events.
ESPN announced this past week that they're going to replace summer Sunday Night Baseball with Women's Sports Sundays.
I love it.
It is great. The Sunday Night Baseball they had with MLB was running out anyway. They weren't planning on renewing it, so they needed to fill this spot, which is great. So they're going to use Sunday primetime in the summer to launch Women's Sports Sundays, and it's going to feature top matches from the WNBA and the NWSL. And the summer is for the WNBA, so I'm so excited for this. In addition to live game coverage, Women's Sports Sundays is also going to include studio shows, digital storytelling, and social coverage. And I just love the idea of a major sports network like ESPN not calling it ESPNW, being like, no, this is what people want, and this is what we're going to give you on Sundays instead of 164 games of baseball.
Yeah, I'm definitely pumped about this.
So it is awesome. We can't wait to see it. They're going to do it for, I think it was like 8 or 9 weeks. And so we'll see what happens. But we know when you put games on during prime time that people watch. So I'm not too worried about this.
No, it's going to be great.
All right, let's get into NCAA basketball.
I feel like Sundays are already a great day for women's sports, especially with NCAA basketball. And this past Sunday, there were a few top 25 matchups, and we're going to actually cover number 6 Michigan, who lost to number 13 Iowa. So Iowa upset them 62-44.
This was a Big Ten matchup, but this was also Iowa's senior day this past Sunday, so that definitely added some pressure. It also marked the 50th consecutive sellout for Iowa women's basketball, which is the longest streak nationally.
I have to call you out for that because you thought once Caitlin Clark left that Iowa fans were just going to disappear.
You should call me out. That's right.
But that's a pretty impressive streak, if I have to say.
That is very impressive. I'm sorry, Iowa. I will try to have more respect for you. That's why you're in the show today.
Well, with senior day, senior Hannah Stolke had a great game. She had a double-double with 11 points, 12 rebounds, and then added 7 assists. Not a bad stat line there.
Not bad. And not bad timing either, as we are heading into March and thinking about March Madness and conference tournaments and all that good stuff.
Definitely. And then we had sophomore Ava Hayden, who had 24 points, 10 rebounds, 2 blocks, and 2 steals. Also a great performance from her.
In the fourth quarter, she was 6 for 6.
Wow.
She scored 12 points in the fourth quarter, and she had 1 block and 1 steal. This wasn't like the prettiest game.
It was so low scoring. We were watching South Carolina versus Ole Miss, and then I was like, okay, South Carolina's starting to pull away. And then I looked up this game, and it was the third quarter, and they were both in the 30s. I couldn't believe it.
Iowa actually held Michigan to a season low in points. And then Iowa had 18 turnovers, and Michigan had 24 turnovers. So all of the write-ups after were like, it was great defense. And I'm like, I don't, that's a really nice way to put it.
Yeah.
But this was the 4th win in a row for Iowa. The Big Ten tournament is around the corner. It's actually scheduled for March 4th to begin. It's getting time.
Yeah.
It is getting time.
We are almost at March Madness.
I'm so excited for this.
Same. All right. We talked a little bit about the Olympics. We watched a lot of them, especially this past weekend and the past week, but they're officially over.
It's so sad.
I know. It's always like a weird thing when they end because you're like, oh, 4 years. We're not going to see a Winter Olympics for 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet a lot of the athletes feel that way too. Like I bet there's a come down of like, oh my God, can I do it again in 4 years?
Yeah.
Do I want to do it again in 4 years? Or for people of like, okay, now I need to start preparing. I didn't make the Olympics this year. What can I do to be there in 2020? No, 2030.
Whoa.
Crazy, crazy, crazy. But the U.S. finished with 12 gold medals. In the medal count, total medal count, they were actually second. And in gold medals, they were second as well. Norway was in first. I just want to mention that out of the 12 gold medals that the U.S. won, 8 of those were won by women.
Hell yeah.
And 63.6% of the total Team USA medals were won by women.
Snaps. We love that.
Love, love, love. So let's get into some of these golds that we need to talk about. Mikaela Shiffrin won gold in her best race, the slalom.
We should have tried the slalom. I saw some courses in Breckenridge.
Yeah.
But we didn't do it.
No, we did not. And again, with the conditions, first of all, I'm not going down slalom ever unless I'm like skipping every 4th one. But no, I'm definitely not doing it when it's icy.
I used to rip it up as a kid in Vail on the slalom.
I bet
used
you
to get
did.
little medals.
I love that.
Little pins they would hand out.
You saw one. What do they call them? Ripperoos?
Oh yeah, a little ski guy had a little Ripperoo award.
Were you a Ripperoo?
Probably.
So Mikaela Shiffrin wins gold. She has more World Cup slalom wins than any skier in history. In this Olympic slalom, she defeated Switzerland's Camille Rast by 1.5 seconds, which is the largest margin in Olympic alpine skiing since 1998. So she crushed.
Wow, that's amazing.
So let's put this into perspective a little bit for Mikaela Shiffrin. In 2014 in Sochi, she won slalom gold at 18, becoming the youngest Olympic slalom champion ever. 4 years later in 2018 in Pyeongchang, she added giant slalom gold and combined silver. And then this is where we head into some rough patches. In 2020, her father passed away, and then she failed to medal in Beijing in 2022. In 2024, she had a bad crash that punctured her abdomen.
Oof.
And she mentioned some PTSD from that crash.
I would think so.
But she came in and she dominated this event. She won this gold after finishing 11th in giant slalom. They did an interview with her after she came in 11th in giant slalom, and her outlook was just amazing. She was like, there is not much of a difference between me finishing 11th and the first place. The margin was
Yeah.
so small. And she was like, everyone is just racing so well. And I was just like, that is such a great outlook, because she still had another race to go. And she was just like, I'm racing well. Like, I'm racing well. There's not much more I can do. And it was really just amazing to see her resilience and belief in herself, which, like, I really think the U.S. women showed that in so many ways, a lot of resilience throughout this Olympics. With this victory, she became the first American alpine skier to win 3 Olympic gold medals. This gold medal in Cortina came 12 years after her first Olympic slalom gold, and it makes her both the youngest and oldest American to win Olympic alpine gold. So she won it at 18, and now she's won it now. So she's won it at the youngest and the
That's
oldest.
really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Not many people can say something like that.
I'm just really happy for her, because, you know, winning gold is rough, because you win gold and then you have to come back and defend it on top of everything else, on top of your training. And like I said, I just really love that these women from the US are like, no, I'm going out there and doing what I can, and you're not going to take away or make me feel bad about my performance. I have control over that. And I just think it's really, really amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Which takes us right into figure skating.
Oh, such a fun way to end figure skating.
It was awesome. And this was something that we all got to watch together with your sisters and their fiance and boyfriend.
Partners.
That's a good way to put it. I know. I don't know why I'm delineating. And we just had so much fun watching this.
Yeah.
So Alysa Liu won gold in the women's single skating event. This is the U.S.'s first Olympic gold medal in women's figure skating since 2002.
And I had no idea going into the event until they said that, which I feel like that's such an amazing stat. Her performance was just incredible. So fun to watch. You could tell she was having fun out there. And I'm like, this is what it's all about. And just her backstory, how she left and came back and found her love for the sport again, was just incredible to see.
Yeah, and she was wearing gold, and I was like, she came out in gold, and I was like, she knows it.
It was such a great outfit, such a beautiful, what do you call them? I don't even know. Leotard?
Yeah.
I loved it. It was amazing.
You mentioned this, but she was just joy. And I think that's kind of like the theme of 2026, joy and dancing. It started with the Bad Bunny concert of like, we're just going to be joyful and we're going to dance. And then she does that and she wins this event in her own way. She stepped away from the sport after the 2022 Beijing Olympics, and then she came back 2 years later and said, I'm going to do it my way, and then was able to win gold. It was just so amazing to see.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I also want to take a moment to talk about Amber Glenn, who also represents the U.S. in this singles event. They do a short program and a long program. After the short program, Amber Glenn was in 13th place. And I want to talk a little bit about this because she was doing very well in her short program, and she goes into a triple loop, and it seemed like she either mistimed her takeoff or got like a case of the yips, and then they call it popping the jump. So it's almost like you're in the middle of the air and you bail. On her triple jump, she only completed 2 revolutions. And by popping the triple jump, she failed to meet the mandatory technical checklist for the short program. She received a 0. And it was an invalid element.
That sucks.
So that dropped her all the way down to 13. She was so emotional after that. It was just heartbreaking to watch. And so again, resilience. She comes into this long program and is like, I'm at 13th. What am I going to do here? But she did incredibly well. She had to hit the triple loop again, and she hit it, but she misstepped it just a tiny bit. She put her hand down. It was the only visible error to my eye on the skate, and her score like jumped her all the way up. But she went early in the event. But when she finished her long program, I was crying because she was like, I was so close. Like if I hit that triple loop, she would have been in contention for a medal, which would have just been insane to go from 13th all the way up to medal contention. And so she knew it then. But again, to screw up so much on your short program and then to come back, and she climbed all the way back up to 5th was really, really incredible.
Yeah, for sure. I also saw on a social media account that she was talking about how she had her period, and we've talked about this before, but she was like, it was hard. It was emotional. It's something us and women just have to deal with as athletes, and it's not talked about enough. And like, that does impact your performance. And I don't look at that as her using it as an excuse. I think it's a basic function of what we have to deal with. And it comes into play at the worst times at some points in your life.
we've talked about this a little bit on the podcast before, but playing sports and getting your period, have felt like I've never done the sport that I had been training to do the entire season that I was in it.
Yep. So I can't imagine being an Olympic athlete. It comes once every 4 years,
Yes.
and you just happen to have your period at that time of your life, and it just sucks.
It does. It does. And is that the reason why this happened?
No, I mean,
Exactly. You can't.
Or maybe, but
Yeah. Yeah. But it's just like something that women have to deal with. And then they still do well.
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
I thought that was interesting. I'm glad she talked about it because I do think it's something that should be talked about. And yeah, it was sad just to see her end the way she did, but still, she put it all out there.
For sure. And like, do you think that there will be a time, like gymnasts don't really get their periods because they kind of stunt their growth? Do you think like that's where we're headed, where you just like don't get your period?
I don't know.
Or like there's some way that we can have people not get their period. And then I'm like, I struggle with that because I'm like, a period is a natural thing and you want to do things that are natural. I'm putting that in quotation marks. I don't know. It's just really difficult to be like, okay, so are we going to not have people get their period?
Yeah. I don't know. It's not really something you want to mess with, in my opinion.
I know. And I guess all of this to say this is why we need more research.
Yeah.
Like we know anecdotally that when people have their period, they're more at risk for injury, but we haven't seen the research clearly show that yet, right? And like we need more research of what does it look like when you don't get your period? How does that affect your bone mass and your bone density and all of those other things? There's so many trade-offs. Yeah. I guess at the end of the day, we just need more research.
For sure. But with that wraps up figure skating. We are going to get into some updates this week, and then we will talk about U.S. women's hockey. But starting with our updates, Run Club is this week, this Thursday and every Thursday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time at the 99ers Sports Bar here in Denver. Come run with us. We run 3 miles and then hang out at the bar after. And if you listen to our podcast and share a secret word every week with the bartenders, you get 50% off your first draft. This week, the secret word is gold.
Gold, because the women are winning all the gold.
Yes.
We also need to take this time to ask you to please rate and subscribe to our podcast. I also just want to mention that there have been a lot of ratings coming in, and we so appreciate them.
Thank you.
So thank you. This means that this little segment hopefully is working.
Yes.
Where we beg you, because we want to continue to put this podcast together. We create, produce, and edit the podcast ourselves. So if you want to support us, which I know you do, a rating, subscribing, a positive review goes an incredibly long way. And most importantly, share with someone who you think would enjoy this, because that's how we grow. And then that's how we eventually get sponsorship. And then that's how we eventually quit our day jobs,
That's right.
So thank you to everyone who has rated the podcast so far. If you send us a screenshot of your 5-star rating, we will send you a Women's Sports Weekly sticker for free. Okay, we're ending out our Olympics with USA Hockey.
You got your USA sweatshirt on to represent.
This is probably the last time I'm going to wear this for a while.
Maybe. But yeah, this was such an exciting game. The U.S. women's hockey team did go undefeated throughout this Olympic run, and they did give us a heart attack in this gold medal match after earlier in the Olympics they beat Canada 5-0. And they were down most of this game 1-0, and we were like, oh no.
They ended up beating Canada 2-1 in overtime.
Unbelievable ending, and they barely made it to overtime. I mean, that goal didn't come until way late in the game.
For sure. And so we were skiing during this time, and I was like, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to watch this.
Yes, in the lodge. We had it on the phone.
I know. The lodge didn't have TVs on. I was like, what is happening? What is happening? So anyway.
People are there to ski, not watch TV, and
Please.
They don't want people spending too much time in there.
Please. It's the Olympics. Come on. We broke, and I watched the first 2 periods, and then we were like, okay, we need, like, I can't spend the whole time in the lodge.
Yeah, we are here on a ski trip.
So I was like, no one tell me what happens, because at that point it was 1-0 with 9 minutes left in the 3rd period. And I was like, no one tell me. I'm not going to look at my phone. We spent the rest of the day. We skied in Vail that day. So we drove from Vail back to Breckenridge, which is like an hour-long drive. I didn't look at my phone, and we got home and we put it on the TV, and I just watched it like it was live, and it was awesome.
I knew the score because we were getting texts, and I was like, Carolyn, just don't look at the text people are sending us right now.
So for over half the game, Canada was up 1-0 from a goal from Kristen O'Neill early in the 2nd period. There's 2 minutes left. in regulation, 2 minutes and 3 seconds left in regulation. And Layla Edwards shoots this shot.
I mean, cranked it.
Hilary Knight is in front of the goalie. I don't know how she did that little deflection. It still does not make sense in physics in my head. And it deflects in, and now the score is 1-1, and I was screaming.
It was a sick goal.
It was so amazing. On top of that, Hilary Knight got engaged at the Olympics to her girlfriend, Olympic speed skater Brittany Bowe. Just really, what a run for her. What an Olympics for her.
Yeah, absolutely loved it.
So then we go into overtime. We're 4 minutes into overtime, and US's Megan Keller makes it past Canadian player Claire Thompson and then flips a shot over the right pad of Canadian goalie Anne Renee Debian and wins on a golden goal. So for overtime, they only play 3-on-3 and it's golden goal. It was wild to watch. It was so high stakes, high pressure, and the US wins. And it was just so amazing. I was so happy.
Yeah, and we talked about this rivalry leading up to the Olympics. Canada eats, breathes, and sleeps hockey. Whenever we beat them in hockey, it's such a big deal. And for this game, just the way this game was trending and for us to come back and be able to win it, it was just so exciting.
And a lot of credit to Canada because they did not look good in that 5-0 game and they just switched it up and they had the momentum for most of the game. The US extended its winning streak against Canada in international play to 8 games. So they've been beating Canada as of late, but we know that in history, Canada has beaten the U.S. more times. And it was just a dominant run for the U.S. through the 2026 Olympics. They allowed just 2 goals and finished with a plus 29 goal differential.
That's incredible.
And we need to give a lot of credit to Erin Frankel, who is the goalie for the U.S. and plays for the Boston Fleet. She had a save percentage of .980.
Ooh, that is elite.
She faced 99 shots and allowed in 2 during the Olympic tournament.
Wow.
I also just loved getting to meet the new players and these young players, and it's making me so excited for the PWHL. Like Layla Edwards and Caroline Harvey, they both play for Wisconsin, and I was like, they are out there pros already.
They're amazing. Really fun to watch, and they just hold their own. It's really impressive.
Defender Caroline Harvey was named the tournament MVP, the best defender, and named tournament all-star. And I'm just like, okay, time to get into the PWHL.
Yeah, for sure.
So Canada had to accept the silver, and it was so horrible that they did this. They gave them the silver medals, and then they went around and I don't know who it was giving it out, but they shook their hand and then gave them a little white stoat, which is the mascot of the Olympics, which is kind of just like a little white weasel. It wasn't alive. It was a stuffed one. But to shake someone's hand and then give them a stuffed animal, it was just so degrading.
Yeah, they were all just looking at it so sad.
And I'm like, how quickly are those getting thrown away or turned into immediate dog toys?
Aw, maybe they'll sleep with it for comfort.
I would not. And winning silver is rough. We were talking about it this past weekend, especially in team sports. The silver hurts a lot more than the bronze because the bronze, you end up on a win.
I still don't necessarily agree with this, but I understand your perspective. But still, silver versus bronze, at the end of the day, you have that silver medal.
I know, but silver medalists, they had the gold in sight. Bronze is just happy to be there.
Yeah, I don't know.
You would still take the silver?
Yeah.
Okay. I might take the bronze in a team sport.
We could disagree on that one.
Okay. Well, anyway, they got their little weasel and they look so sad.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks to end on a loss for sure.
And now they go back to the PWHL and just start teammates with all the Americans again, which is also very interesting. And I love it.
Yeah.
So the gold medal game set the record for the most watched women's hockey game with an average of 5.3 million viewers and actually peaked at 7.7 million in overtime.
Not surprised, and we love to see it.
The USA men's hockey team beat Canada in overtime, and it is the first time that both the men and the women have won gold. The women have won gold within the past 30 years, but the men haven't.
The men haven't won since 1980, since the Miracle on Ice team.
Yeah, so thanks, men, for carrying your weight for once. And I am such a hockey fan. I am in it.
Yeah, it is a really fun sport to watch.
Thank you, Heated Rivalry. Thank you, Takeover Tour, for coming to Denver. I'm so invested. Thank you, Olympics.
It's good stuff.
Okay, we need to interrupt this episode for a second because we recorded this before the video was released of the U.S. men's hockey team celebrating their gold medal by getting a phone call from the president. On the phone, the president joked that he would be impeached for not inviting the U.S. women's hockey team, who also won gold. Obviously, we talked about it the whole podcast, and everyone just thought it was so funny. Can you tell me your initial reactions to seeing it?
Yeah, and he more so said, just so you know, I gotta invite the women too. I'd probably be impeached if I didn't. I've been infuriated ever since I saw the video, and sometimes this is just a me thing. I'm always like, am I being too much? But that's how we're conditioned to think. And I also think this is what women unfortunately put up with all the time. So it just was really disappointing, and it's like, am I surprised? No. Did I want to think that video was fake? Yes, because I was rooting for the men, and that really just took a lot out of me to see that. And apparently a lot of others too, because there's definitely been a lot of backlash on socials.
I felt the same way. I was like, of course. Of course, the men who have not won in 46 years will laugh at the expense of women. Like, of course they will. The blindly laughing the entire time, I think, is what really got to me, because I was like, these people, I bet, will say about themselves that they can see the full picture of things. And it was just like, you were just so blindly laughing at whatever he said. And you did it at the expense of women. And I want to know what the joke was. What was the joke?
Yeah.
Tell me what the joke was, because when you say what the joke was out loud, is that funny? Say it. And if you're listening to this podcast, and I know I'm speaking to the choir, but if someone says to you, oh, it was just a joke, ask them, tell me what the joke was. Say it. Because if the joke is that it's funny, I don't even know what the joke is. It's funny that women win. It's funny that the women aren't good enough and they shouldn't be invited to the White House. Tell me what the joke is.
Yeah, and it's not a joke. It's just lack of respect, and it's very obvious that that's what they think. And instead of apologizing, a lot of the men's team was just saying, oh, no, we hung out with the women till 3 a.m. in the cafeteria. We were watching their game too. And it's like, how about just apologize?
Yeah.
But they can't seem to do that. And they're just upset that people are giving them backlash. So like, we just won gold. It's really unfortunate that this is how people are taking it. It's like, well, you did that to yourself.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's a moment of gaslighting. Don't gaslight us for calling you out, because it's about time that people start calling this kind of behavior out. Maybe you will learn from this.
And maybe in public you support the women's team, but right when that locker room door was closed, you laughed in their faces and you expect us not to be upset by it.
Yep.
You're saying that, oh, it's divisive to do that. You said it at the beginning. I want to root for you. I am begging to root for you. And then you really have to ask yourself, if someone laughed at you in that way, would you be like, I'm going to let it slide because I don't want to be divisive? That was not how I was brought up. And I don't want anyone to operate in that way. So if someone was in that room and they heard that, why couldn't you be like, not cool? Because that's what I want to pass on. I don't want to pass on to the people in my life or to my future kids one day of like, when someone says something that you don't agree with, you just say, oh, I don't want to step on any toes.
Yeah.
And they've backtracked a little bit. The moms of the Hughes brothers who play for the team, her name is Ellen Hughes. She also is a consultant for Team USA Women's Hockey and works on sports development. And they had her this past week defending them, quote, saying, if you could see what we see from the inside and the men and women sharing, you know, dorm rooms and halls and flex floors and the camaraderie and the synergy and the way the women cheered on the men and the way the men cheered on the women, that's what it's all about, end quote. And I'm like, unfortunately, when you laugh at the expense of women, you negate all of that other stuff. And every woman knows this because they've had a man be nice to their face and then go and talk behind their back. That's so misogynistic. And I think that's why I'm getting particularly triggered. It's just like, I've been in this position before. And it doesn't matter what you say to my face. It matters what you say behind closed doors and how quickly you laugh at a joke at my expense.
I recently played in a co-ed tournament, and I talked about it a little bit over the summer. The whole time I felt like I was less than. Like, it was never accepted that 2 of the 11 players were women on the team. It was like we were a charity case and we were just there because we had to be there.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I've lived this experience. For elite athletes to have to also continue to live this, it's just very unfortunate.
Yeah, I've seen some comments of like, how are you going to face your wives and your daughters and your mom? And I actually hate that sentence because I'm like, one, how are you going to face your sons, right? Like, how do you talk to them about the women in your life? And then secondly, you don't need a mom, a wife, a daughter to have respect for women. I don't understand that. And honestly, I think the question is, how do you face yourself? How do you look at what you hold to be important to yourself and say, does that match up with what I hold to be important?
Yeah.
Do my actions match up with what I hold as my values? If you value equality, if you value competition, does what you just did align with that? It just drives me crazy.
I will say, and obviously this was bullshit and very unfortunate, and I feel like we're going backwards and it's just one thing after the other. But one thing I did notice, now I know my algorithm is set a certain way.
Yep.
I follow all the women's sports on my personal account. So naturally, a lot of things are going to gear towards that. But there have been accounts that have posted, like ESPN, for example, posted the men partying. And it was just them partying and saying, oh, the men in Miami partying the win and them having fun. And I was like, ugh. I always go in the comments. I know I'm not supposed to because it drives me insane. But I was like, what are people saying about this? And to my surprise, a lot of people were saying, stop posting these men, where are the women's team? Yep. Or just saying, go U.S. women's hockey, and just positive things towards the U.S. women's hockey. And I'm like, there's definitely a shift happening.
Yes.
And then there was another news outlet that posted a clip of one of the men's players talking. And under that, all comments were, we want the women. Where are the women? The women's U.S. hockey team is my team. And I'm like, there is a shift. Yep. It's happening. We just need more people to continue to speak out. And I do think we could start to turn a corner. We obviously still have a long way to go, but hopefully we can teach young boys and we can teach young men that this is not right. And you have to change. And you have to just speak up. Yeah, I think that's a great point. I know your algorithm is very women's sports, but that was on the general ESPN account. We almost didn't come out and record this. We had already recorded all this stuff. And it's like, no, we need to continue to have these conversations. And also, this is why we do the podcast, to elevate women's sports, to call out the injustices of this amazing team who has medaled in every Olympics that they've been part of. In every Olympics, and who went undefeated at the Olympics this year. And they only let up 2 goals in 7 games.
Who had the best defense the entire time. We need to remember that and praise that and talk about that more and more. And if you are struggling right now of like, how do I do this? I think one of the things that I've kind of flipped is I talk about women's sports now in my everyday life all the time. And I don't talk about it in comparison to men's. Yeah. I just talk about the amazing things that the women are doing all the time so that people know, oh, there's other things going on. And it's a way to do it in a way that's not confrontational, right? And sometimes I definitely get confrontational, but if you're wondering how to do it, it's like just elevate these great, great stories.
I think that's the best way to go. And I sometimes feel like, oh my God, we're shitting on men so much. I saw a quote though, and it was like, it's not all men, but it's always men. And that's been sticking with me because it's like, for the men who are upset that they're just getting all this backlash, it's like, speak up.
Yeah.
Speak up to your male counterparts who are not doing the right thing or not saying the same thing. And maybe we'll start to see a shift because I don't want to feel this way. Yeah. I really don't. I
saw another post that said, it's because I know good men that I'm so angry right now. And that I think is also an important thing to remember. I know men can be better because I see it in them. And so for them to just be blindly laughing, it's so exhausting. I just want to round this out by saying you as a woman can be perfect. You can go 7-0. You can win gold medals. You can do all the right things and you're still going to get treated like shit by some men. And that sucks. But it's also a reminder to me of just be your authentic self, because if you're perfect, if you do everything right, if you align with them politically, they're still going to laugh at you behind your back in the locker room.
Yeah. Oh, I wish we didn't need to talk about this. Originally, when we recorded, we shouted out the men on winning gold, and then this video came out. It's been a whirlwind of past few days. It's just been really upsetting. But to our listeners out there, continue to spread the good word about women's sports. We know you're out there advocating and supporting, and we'll continue to do the same. I hope the women's team have a great time with Flavor Flav. Yeah. Mike Johnson, the mayor of Denver, also invited them to come parade in Denver. That would be awesome. Definitely going to take off of work if that happens.
I'll be there. All right, let's get back into the rest of our episode.
Well, we're going to stick on the hockey train because you have something to share of what you're looking forward to this week. So what is it?
Yeah, the PWHL is back. The Olympics end and the PWHL starts up this week on Thursday, February 26th. The Montreal Victoire will play the New York Sirens at 7 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube. Montreal is number 3 in the standings and New York is number 4. So this is going to be a nice matchup.
Nice. That's going to be exciting.
What are you looking forward to?
I'm switching it up to soccer. Anytime we get to watch the U.S. women's national team is a fun day, and the She Believes Cup is here. On Sunday, March 1st, the U.S. will play Argentina at 5 p.m. Eastern on TNT, True TV, and Max. The She Believes Cup will feature Argentina, Canada, and Colombia, and the U.S., and the USA is currently ranked 2nd in the world. Canada is 10th, Colombia is 20th, and Argentina is 30th.
That's really interesting.
Like every 10th
place. Yeah, except for the U.S.
That is. But that is it for this week. We will see you next week on Women's Sports Weekly. In the meantime, watch women's sports and share the podcast with your friends. Rate and subscribe to the pod on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Thanks for joining us.